Butterflies inheriting radiation deformities, a shark born with a single massive eye in the center of its forehead, a wild mountain lion hunting with a second set of teeth growing directly out of its skull, two-headed snakes, and more. These are real unsettling mutations. Right after the Fukushima nuclear disaster happened in 2011, a group of Japanese researchers, led by a scientist named Joji Otaki, decided to study some of the local wildlife. They wanted to see what effect the radiation was having. They picked a tiny, super common insect called the pale grass blue butterfly. When they caught the first batch near the accident site, they noticed a few weird things right away. Some had dented eyes, others had crumpled wings, and a few had malformed antennae. The real discovery happened when they brought these butterflies back to a clean lab away from the radiation. They bred them to see what would happen to their babies. In the next generation, the number of physical deformities didn't go down, doubled. The researchers realized the radiation had permanently damaged the butterflies' blueprints. The eggs in the host plants that they ate were full of fallout, and that damage was being passed down directly from parent to offspring. In 2011, a fisherman in the Gulf of California named Enrique Lucerno Leon caught a pregnant dusky shark. When he cut it open, one of the fetuses inside looked totally wrong. It was pure white, while all its siblings were normal gray. Oh, and another small detail. Right in the center of its forehead was a single large eye, like a Cyclops. Instead of tossing it, he handed it over to marine scientists at National Geographic. They ran x-rays and tests to make sure it wasn't a fake. Of course, it was completely real. The shark had a condition called cyclopia. Normally, very early in development, the brain is supposed to divide into two halves, and each half forms one eye. In this shark, that split never happened. The brain stayed whole, so there was only one eye socket to form right in the middle. Animals born this way don't survive long. They can't swim properly or hunt, so they're incredibly rare as is, and even rarer to find. The specimen lets scientists get a closer look at exactly what it looks like when that basic step of development goes wrong. Deep under Texas, inside the cave systems of the Edwards Aquifer, there's a fish called the toothless blind cat. It lives hundreds of feet underground in complete darkness. It's developed into what it is today over the course of millions of years. It has no eyes at all. Not blind eyes, I mean no eyes. Skin just grows right over the spots where the eyes would normally develop. There's no point in building eyes down there, so the body just stopped doing it. The fish also has zero pigment in its skin, which makes it completely see-through. You can look at one and see its organs, its blood vessels, pretty much everything. I mean, it kind of looks like a raw chicken cutlet. It's not exactly pretty, but it's cool. Scientists find it especially interesting because it shows something counterintuitive. I mean, being completely blind sounds like a pretty major flaw, but in a pitch black cave, having eyes is just a waste of energy. The body eventually stops spending resources on something useless, so the fish is better off for it. You'll also find other pale blind creatures down there, like the Texas blind salamander, and there are other similar eyeless catfish found in Mexico. Yeah, technically this is not a mutation, it's an evolutionary thing, but it's still pretty strange. In late 2015, a hunter near Preston, Idaho shot a mountain lion. When he got close to look at it, he found something growing out of the left side of the animal's forehead. A hard, white mass with a fully formed set of teeth inside it, and whiskers growing out the outside. He turned it over to biologists at the Idaho Department of Fish and Game, and when they studied the skull, they came up with two explanations, and they weren't really able to rule either one out completely. The first was a teratoma, a type of tumor made of cells that can grow into almost anything: hair, bone, teeth. They sometimes show up in completely wrong places on the body, so that seems to fit pretty well. But the second theory was that the lion had started out as a conjoined twin. If a twin stops developing early in pregnancy and gets absorbed back into the surviving animal, sometimes there are remnants of the twin left behind, in this case, a jaw. Either way, the lion had been walking around in the wild for years with this extra set of teeth on its forehead, but it seemed healthy until the hunter got to it. Belgian blue cattle look like pro bodybuilders. Their shoulders and hindquarters are enormous, packed with crazy muscle. They look almost nothing like regular cows. That's not from a special feed or anything farmers are doing. It comes down to one missing protein. In a normal animal, the body makes something called myostatin. Its job is to tell the muscles when to stop growing. Think of it as a shut-off switch. When the body has enough muscle, myostatin kicks in, and it's just like, that's enough. But Belgian blues have a mutation where the gene that makes myostatin is either missing or broken, so the switch never flips, and The muscles just keep building and multiplying with nothing to stop them, which is where the term double muscling comes from. They end up with far more muscle fibers than normal. Geneticists study these animals because the same basic system exists in humans. If researchers can figure out how to work around myostatin safely, it could open up treatments for people with muscle deficiencies. Sometimes a bird watcher will spot a half and half bird, say a northern cardinal, for example. The entire right side of the body is bright red and the entire left is brown. It looks like two different birds fused together straight down the middle. A bilateral genadromorph, which means half its body is genetically male and the other half is genetically female. Starts with the very first cell division after the egg is fertilized. Normally, when that cell splits in two, both new cells get identical genetic information, but sometimes a mistake happens and the chromosomes get divided unevenly. So one cell ends up with male chromosomes, the other ends up with female ones. From that point on, each cell builds its half of the bird using its own instructions, so to speak. The male cells build the right side, the female cells build the left side. That split goes all the way through the body, including the internal organs. The bird can have male bits on one side and an ovary on the other. Next up, we have Stumpy the four-legged duck, which sounds like a cartoon character, but this is actually a real case. In 2007, a duckling hatched on a farm in Hampshire, England, with 4 legs. The owners called him Stumpy. He had his own normal working legs up front and a second pair growing right behind them. They were smaller and they don't actually function, but they were there. This is called polymylia, which just means extra limbs. It happens when the embryo basically gets garbled instructions about where to grow limbs while it's still developing. Most animals born this way don't make it. The extra limbs are just a problem. They drag, they get caught. But Stumpy was different. His extra legs were small enough and positioned just right that they didn't really stop him from walking or swimming, so he grew up normally alongside the other ducks. One of the extra legs eventually got snagged on a fence and had to be removed by a vet, but otherwise, he was completely healthy. There's a rare hereditary skin condition called epidermal dysplasia verruciformis. You might have seen photos of people with this. It's usually just referred to as the tree man disease. To get it, a person has to inherit a broken copy of a specific gene from both parents. If only one parent passes it down, it doesn't show up, so this is very rare, thankfully. The genes involved are called EVER1 and EVER2. Their job is to help the immune system recognize and fight off a virus called human papillomavirus, HPV. Most people carry some version of HPV and their bodies deal with it without any issues. But when EVER1 and EVER2 are both broken, the immune system doesn't recognize the virus at all. So the virus moves into the skin cells and forces them to produce massive amounts of keratin, the same tough protein that makes up our fingernails. So with nothing to stop it, keratin builds up into these thick, rough, almost bark-like growths, mostly on the hands and feet. Doctors have to surgically remove them. Two-headed animals are called polycephalic, and they show up most often in reptiles, snakes especially, and sometimes turtles. It's not caused by pollution or anything in the environment though. The process is almost identical to what creates identical twins in humans. So when a fertilized egg starts developing, it's supposed to split fully into 2 separate embryos. If that split starts but doesn't finish, the cells just keep growing anyway, connected. The result is one body with 2 heads. Each head has its own brain, its own eyes, but they share everything below the neck. So the same heart, the same lungs, the same digestive system. In the wild, they almost never survive because it's basically 2 different snakes fused together and they often just can't cooperate with each other. Makes escaping from predators a bit of a problem if they both want to slither in a different direction. In captivity, scientists have kept them alive for years though, but one well-documented behavior at feeding time, they've had to put physical barriers between the 2 heads because snakes have been known to fight over the same piece of food. Neither one understands that the food's gonna end up in the exact same stomach regardless. In 2019, a fisherman on Lake Champlain pulled in a trout that looked totally normal at first, but when she went to take the hook out, she noticed the fish had a second mouth right below the first one. Photos started spreading online. People assumed that maybe it was edited. Biologists looked at it and they confirmed the fish was real though. Sometimes a fish survives an old hook injury where the jaw tears open and then heals in an unusual shape which can look like a second mouth. But a case where a sort of second mouth forms during development, that's pretty rare. What surprised scientists though was the fact that the fish was a full-grown adult. A second opening in the throat usually causes real problems with breathing through the gills, or it just makes it nearly impossible for them to swallow food. This one had gotten around both those problems though, which isn't something anyone was expecting. And with all that said, that has been the video. I will catch you, yes you specifically, in the next one.